The good old clap, take one.
That's right.
How many of you knew what you wanted to be when you were 7 years old? I did. I wanted to be world champion.
Hey, is there honesty involved in this podcast? Can we be honest?
You can shut your fucking lips.
And then I'll just say, put them up, what? Let's go.
He's like, you look too pretty on the wave. Get ugly.
We can talk about DMT if you want.
I thought we were boxing.
All right, so we have a very special guest today. We have the bass player and producer for the Grammy-nominated band, the Free Nationals, Kelsey González. Kelsey, thanks so much for joining us on the lineup today.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Love it. So,
big fan of the show, first,
you know? I appreciate that. I'm a big fan of you guys. This is great.
Hey.
We'll starting off, you know, where are you at today? Where are you based usually?
I'm in Long Beach at my studio. Yeah, just here bright and early for a musician, you know, 1 p.m.
Well, I'm excited because I want to get into that because this is a unique conversation for us, but to be totally candid, it's kind of in line with the vision we had when we started these, which was, of course, at the WSL, we have, you know, the world's best surfers and the world titles, which is what we focus on a lot. But, you know, surfing is huge. And there's people like yourself that interact with it that might be a few degrees separated from, you know, the elite championship tour, but you're a fan of it. And at the same time, you know, what you do with your art impacts the world's best surfers as well. And that was always the idea. I'm like, there's a lot of connective tissue in surfing. So maybe for our listeners, just as a starting point, could you just tell us a little bit about yourself, you know, what you currently do, where you're from, and we'll kind of go from there.
Yeah, I'm from Long Beach. And yeah, I've been surfing since I was 9 or 10. I'm not a professional by any means, but you know, I was at a time in my life, like maybe high school and a little after high school, I was going like almost every day, and just, you know, just surfing has just always been just such a big part of my life. So I always thought of myself as a surfer first and, you know, musician later, because yeah, it's just what I love the most. But yeah, for some reason, it always, like, all the music that I did and all the people that I work with in music, it always still, like, it connected in somehow. Like, yeah, even especially if you find a friend that you surf with that plays music, you know, it's like, it's a unique thing.
It's interesting too, like, you know, like I've had so many people come up and they talk about like meditation, or, you know, surfing is a meditation where it's just, you know, a singular activity that takes all of your attention because it can be scary, or you need to have your wits about you. And it's so cathartic in the sense of, oh, I did that thing and I wasn't distracted by my phone or a phone call or an email or people talking to me at the coffee, whatever it was, I was only focused on that one thing. And people say the same thing, obviously, about like meditation itself or yoga, or music is another thing, right? That is so all encompassing. When you play it, it feels really, really nice. So it doesn't shock me that there's, you know, kind of a connection between like, yeah, I do this thing and it makes me feel a certain way. I do that thing and it makes me feel a certain way. As someone who's obviously operating at such a high level on the music side, do you think that that's fair in terms of how you experience music and surfing?
Oh, big time. Yeah, it's like, yeah, it's a big time meditation for sure. I mean, being out there in the water with your friends and just, you know, just taking it all in is the big idea. You know, catching the wave is great too, but just sitting out there and you know, taking it all in is the biggest meditation. Whereas with music, it's the same thing. You know, it's just the art of playing, even if no one's there. It's like, it's the best, man, you know? Absolutely. And then also when you're there with people, playing with people, or you're surfing with people, it's it's the best.
Now, yeah. You said you based in Long Beach, but you grew up in Orange County. You know, where was your spot? Where did you surf, and what kind of board did you ride? You know, what was your whole deal?
Well, yeah, like I lived in like Santa Ana for a couple years when I was a kid, like just born, and then then kind of moved out here to Long Beach. But I would surf my first like, you know, few months of surfing. My dad and brother took me to Bolsa Chica. Would just surf there all the time, and had a wetsuit that didn't fit me and a board that didn't make sense. And yeah, just surfed that for a while, and then eventually, at my high school, there was like only one other surfer. Everyone else was like boogie boarders, so I had to go surf with a lot of boogie boarders, and I'd have to go try to surf the wedge sometimes, or like Southside Seal Beach or something. But yeah, it was my favorite spots growing up were like Huntington, like after school, Huntington Pier if you could, and then like the cliffs. Now cliffs are like my favorite place since for a lot of years now.
Yeah.
Bolsa, like at the south part of Bolsa, right when they built that jetty, that got really good for like two years.
Right.
And then Seal Beach River Jetty was always, one of my favorites too. Anderson Street. I just kind of surfed all that little area, Newport, if I feeling adventurous, and then when you really have time, go down South Trestles or something, But
right.
Yeah, I mean, I would go up from like Malibu. The longest drive I would do without like planning it would be like either Malibu or Trestles, and anywhere in between. But normally Huntington was my spot.
Yeah, the oversized wetsuit, I feel like that's like a rite of passage that's gone away, because I used to get them from like Play It Again Sports, and my dad was like, well, I know you're not a men's large, you're 12, but like you'll grow into it. And it's like, and I was really scrawny as a kid, and I've got 8-year-old twins, and my little guy surfs a lot, and he's like really built for like compared to what I was. He's like a wetsuit model. He like fills it out, it's all snug, and I'm like, man, you don't know how hard it was. Like back in the day, I was getting like flushed with freezing water. I was dying.
Yeah. And then you paddle and you have that big old zipper bump on your back.
Exactly. Yeah. So everything's, your neck's all scratched up. You're like, this is the way to go about it.
You're like, this doesn't even make sense. Why am I wearing it?
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. I'm actually colder than I would be without it. But
yeah.
So when did you mention surfing was kind of always first and music was second? When did music start for you? Like, and how did you get into it?
I learned once again from my pops and my brother. They taught me just a couple chords on guitar, and like my cousin had a boyfriend that was in this like ska band. So I don't know. I was like, got to see bands at a young age and just got to see how cool it was and how cool shows were.
What was the name of the ska band?
They're not ska so much anymore, but they're called RX Bandits. They're like kind of like proggy.
Yep. Yeah. I only asked because I grew up in Orange County, and I'm like, I was hovering around the ska punk scene in Orange County. I'm gonna know who this is.
Yeah. Actually, the lead singer is still a good buddy of mine, and I surf with him a lot. And he is in the studio right next door. So,
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
And so going to high school and falling in love with these two passions, and then obviously becoming super proficient, probably at both, but certainly on the music side in terms of turning it into a career. What was there a moment for you where you're like, yep, this is now my career. I know this is going to be my career. Or was it more of a gradual, I'm meeting people, I'm playing in different bands, like this is starting to become a thing?
Yeah, it kind of came naturally. I was lucky because when I was like 13 or 14, my older brother was, I was like a freshman in high school, and he was a senior. So he was jamming around with his friends, and they started a band, and they didn't have a bass player. So I was like, my brother didn't want me to be in the band because it was too, like he was just being too cool. And then all his friends were like, hey, let him in. And so I got to play in this band, and we played like a lot of just house parties and like, just little venues and stuff. And it was kind of like reggae music. And so with them, I was just like the young kid in the band that like always just, I got to learn from these older guys, and that was super cool. And then eventually after a few years of that, I started like when I graduated high school, I started playing like more with like just a different caliber of musician, not caliber, but just different kind of music maybe. And it was like more soul, funky, hip hoppy type of stuff. And then that was great. And then I learned a lot of different stuff through there. And then eventually I started playing, like I met some like really good musicians that played at churches, gospel churches. And I was like, oh crap, these dudes are next level, And eventually one of the guitar players, my friend Luke, was like, hey man, you want to come play at our church? And I was like, oh, all right. I don't know much, but sure, I'm down to try. And it's like I'm the only like Mexican kid in there at all. Like I was
right.
definitely like all like, just it's a gospel church. So, it is not, I didn't really know any of the songs. I didn't know any of the rules or, so it was funny, like learning these songs. Cause like some of them will be like, bless the Lord, I will bless the Lord, we bless the Lord. There's like 5 different versions of a song. And then they'll say like,
right. Yeah.
You'll learn it in E flat. And then they'll like be like, oh, we're doing an A flat. And you're like, what? You have to like be quick and on your toes. And I swear like the first 3 months of that was just like hell. It was boot camp. I was like, how am I gonna do this shit, man? Like, but eventually, my homies were cool and everyone at the church was cool. So it was, I powered through it. And then eventually my ear got way better and I could just like learn it like on the spot, So
that's
that
really
was cool.
That's really interesting. So you don't go finish, please.
No, that's it. Yeah.
I was just going to comment on, it's really interesting that your trajectory in terms of development, like you're playing with bands and you're learning these different kinds of genres, but you were saying that the level of musicianship in the gospel church was very, very high, which is interesting, right? You'd think it would actually kind of be not the opposite, but you'd think that, hey, if it's at that high a level, they're probably playing in like a professional sense in the industry as opposed to at a gospel church. Yeah. But that wasn't your experience. You got there and you're like, these people are at another level.
Well, it was actually both, because a lot of the cats that I was playing with at the church, like for example, my first church that I was at for a long time with my like good friends, they were touring with Nas, at the rapper Nas at the time, and
right,
still do sometimes, but they like they would tour, and then when they get back, they just go to church and make like a little $150 on a Sunday, and and then keep it going, So that was another thing that eventually got me into gigs too, was like my church homies, and oh, he can play, and just give me a little gig, and I eventually ended up like touring with Nas for like a summer too because of them, and I'm like, oh my God, I'll do playing at church.
Wow.
It's crazy.
And I'm interested to get your take on this, because not the stereotype, because not every music act's the same, obviously, but similar to surf culture and just tour life, right? Whether you're a comedian or you're working on, the championship tour or, musical act, the stereotype is it can be pretty wild. Like you're going to these places, there's a lot of fans, there's, substance abuse or out drinking, whatever it is, which is certainly probably not the perspective of the church, or not the perspective of playing at the church. Did it feel very different, like going back and forth between those two spaces when you were playing music? Just culturally, I guess. No, I mean, because, I guess growing up playing in bands, I was used to it. I was around all this crazy shit all times. But then, the church cats are the same ones. The ones playing in the church are the same ones touring and doing that stuff too. So, I mean, not all of them, but they, it's not like the church musicians are over there like leading prayer or anything. They're just, I mean, they're there to play.
I remember, I remember one time picking up my buddy who, I'll leave his name out of it, but he like I would go pick him up before church, and he was just like, I picked him up one Sunday, and he's like, dude, I'm so hungover, did some acid last night, man. Like he like, we're going to church, and he's just like still like, buzzing or whatever. And I'm like, oh crap. Right. And then we get there, and he, I've never seen him play. He like stands up in the pulpit and does a ripping guitar solo, and I was like, this guy is amazing.
Which version of Bless the Lord are we playing? What notes today? Let's go. Man, if I ever go back to church, I'm going to look at the band much differently now. I'm going to be like, I wonder.
Yeah. There's,
wow.
So, weed is a big part of that. A lot of musicians smoke weed.
Fair. Well, so let's talk about the Free Nationals. Like how does that come together? When and how did you guys all meet?
I met two of the guys in the band, Jose and Ron. I met them like in 2008 ish. Just little church things. Jose was at the Long Beach Gospel Fest, and our church was like it was like we were hosting it, and so it was like a bunch of different churches and their bands would come and like perform, and Jose was the only like other Latino Mexican fool over there. So me and him right away were like, what up, homies. And then the keyboard player Ron, I met him playing at some church in Culver City, and that was a funny story too, because the church was such like, the pastor was kind of a wild guy, and he would like talk. He would do his the music part in the beginning was like 2 hours, and then he'd have like 4 hours of talking, and then end off with another 2 hours of music. And it was like, it was the longest thing ever. But it was the church was right next to the Westfield Mall in Culver. So me and Ron would go at those 4 hours when he talked. We would just go sneak out and go see a movie or go to the mall or just go to the bar or something. It was a good time. And so I met them just through that, separately. And then around 2009, my homegirl Gabby took me to this place called Little Temple Bar in Santa Monica, or off Santa Monica, and she introduced me to, his name at the time was Breezy Lovejoy, but he now is Anderson Paak, and he was playing drums, and he wasn't like, he was singing a little bit backgrounds, but they were just like the backing band. And I was like, oh, there's Jose, there's Ron, and there's this incredible drummer. And so I just kind of went up to him afterwards. I had already had a gig. I was touring with this other artist, and I was like, doing my thing. But when I met them, I was like, yo, I noticed you don't have a bass player. What up? Like,
seems essential. Yeah. Right.
So yeah, that's kind of how we all like got together as like a band, and then friends and stuff. And that was like 2009ish. And yeah, we
right. So that's still pretty early on, right?
Yeah.
It's before Anderson Paak became like kind of a megastar in a way, right?
Yeah, I think around 2014 or something, he was like, I'm gonna change my name, and so that was kind of when things started. He had like these really like kind of stringy dreadlocks, and they looked funny, and he was like Avatar. It was cool, but it was like, he was still kind of Breezy Lovejoy. So then when he changed to Anderson Paak, he like shaved his head and started working out and stuff. And here he is.
It's just reinvention. And he's from Oxnard, which is
he's
where
Oxnard.
I've lived there for 12 years, so we're all very proud.
Wow.
But it was funny because I never encountered him when he was Breezy Lovejoy or any of that. But one of our colleagues at the company, Alison Teal, put me onto him a few years ago, like kind of right before he really broke out. And she was trying to get him to play one of our events. And she's like, you should listen to him. He's from Oxnard. I'm like, he's from Oxnard? No way. And then I'm like, this guy's amazing. And then sure enough, it went from like 0 to 100 from basically like the second I got, the album to like, oh my, this guy is everywhere. And that must have been pretty jarring just from a band perspective of like, hey, we went from, this level to this level in really quick order.
Yeah, it was cool. I mean, Dr. Dre helped a lot with at least the upswing.
Right.
When he like kind of vouched for him, but the Malibu album was already done when we first like started hanging with Dre, and it was like, I think after that album, that's when their little when he signed to the label or whatever. But yeah, I mean, Anderson, he's always been quality, top notch. He's always been great, and in my opinion, and I play with some of the best drummers in the world, but in my opinion, he's top dog, hands down.
Yeah,
dude can play.
Well, we're going to take a quick break to get a word from our sponsors, and I want to talk about what you were just talking about, which is playing with these top level musicians. But we'll be right back. It's so interesting talking to you because you obviously operate at a super high level musically, and you've played with the biggest names on the planet. Dr. Dre, Anderson Paak, and it seems like your trajectory as a musician, you're just very comfortable being in that space, and it's not always the case. It certainly isn't always the case from the outside. Like if I were to meet Anderson Paak or Dr. Dre, I'd probably be like, oh my God, that's those guys. But then, similarly on the surfing side, like when I was a kid, I'm like, it's Kelly Slater. Oh my God. And he is amazing. But then you work with him for a while and you're like, they're just human beings, and they actually appreciate you kind of not freaking out and just treating them as human beings. Have you found that's kind of the same on the music side as well?
Big time. Yeah. I mean, especially in the studio, working, but have met people where you kind of, that you can tell they want you to like blow sunshine up their ass and like praise them, but
Right.
I'm never going to do that because it's just not my style. So, you know, like Anderson, he loves, like the Nats we're so cool together because we don't blow sunshine up his ass. We're just like, you know, we just tell like it is. And yeah, like Dre's the same way. I'm just lucky enough to have had all those years of just sessions and hanging out, like, you know, at his place, or, you know, he's just, yeah, he's like the coolest, most humble guy when you see him and get to know him and stuff. And like, I remember him, like, he asked me to like go to his house a couple of times to like give him bass lessons, and like just said it so calm and humbly, just like, hey man, would you be down above it? You know, like it to me, it was so cool to hear that, but it was just, he was so humble about it. It's like, oh dude, okay, Dre, sure, anything you want, man, I'm down. Like,
Right. Yeah.
But
whatever works for you. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah. It was a lot of artists. Yeah, it's just be yourself and they'll be themselves, because otherwise what are you doing, you know?
Well, and and the reason I bring that up too is because I know that people look at sort of almost every industry where there is a celebrity component associated with it, and you know, the media, and we're all kind of guilty of it, social media and whatever, like elevating these people and putting them on pedestals and making them in a way seem, you know, more than human or not human at all. And more often than not, in my experience, and sounds like the same for you, it's like you get into these situations and they're like, no, they want to be treated like a human being. They don't want you to kind of have these like artificial walls between them. And when you don't have it, not only can you have like better relationship with them, but you can kind of create a more amazing art or you know, have more amazing projects.
Yeah. I mean, I will be honest though, when I met Kelly for the first time, I was like, you know, there are a few people in my life where I'm like, dude, what? Like, I'm nervous right now. This is crazy.
Of course.
You know, but
when did you meet him? What was the circumstances?
He invited me and Anderson brought me to the surf ranch in the beginning of the pandemic. And Anderson, I think, I don't know, maybe Oxnard had a bit to do with it too, but I'm just always, when I'm around him, I'm always talking about surf and always showing him videos. And I remember when like right, yeah. I first showed him like Buttons, how Buttons surfs, and that he's like, you know, half black. Anderson was like, what? This is my favorite guy, you know, like just got into it, but didn't really surf, but just loved it, you know. And so we got to go, Kelly invited us, and it was kind of just, you know, a dream come true. But yeah, Kelly was there, and you know, I don't like, Anderson kind of just went to go. I think he went just because of me, because it was just like, of course, all right, I'll let you, you know, go get your rocks off.
Yeah, Kelsey really wants to go. Yeah, that's right.
and I think Kelly really wanted to jam with us, or with him. So
right,
it was like,
right.
It was like, oh, cool. Like, yeah, and so
that's cool. It's a transactional relationship.
Awesome.
That's all good.
Yeah, because I couldn't have thought of a greater day. It was the best day of my life. I couldn't have thought of a better situation. Like, go surf. We did like I guess it goes like 4 times in a day, or 4 sessions or whatever.
Yeah, right, yeah.
And there was like a couple other people there. It wasn't like a lot of people, but I mean, Shane Dorian, Jackson Dorian, they were surfing it with us too. And Kelly was like pushing Anderson into waves, but that wave is like, it's not like the easiest beginner wave, you know? So he was, of course, kind of falling, but I was lucky because I was with him and I got to just get all the scraps, the leftovers. But it was the whole wave.
I've been there a few. Oh yeah, I think the scraps are better because you don't get like, well, the universe is already running this wave. I didn't screw it up, so I'm just going to make the most. Exactly. I always feel better getting the scraps.
Oh my, for sure. It was the best. And Kelly was so cool. Like, he was so cool about it. And it was funny. He took the first, he's like, in the morning, it's the glassiest. The first one before we start running is the glassiest part. So I'll take that one just to break it in. And I was like,
that was nice of him.
Yeah, it was so nice.
Here, let me show you how it's done. It's like, we've seen it. Get out of there.
That's what we all wanted, though. It was awesome. And just right in front of us, just getting barreled, just like, oh my God. And then he just like was like, here, you get the next one to me. I'm like, okay, Kelly Slater. Yeah, and so you got to surf that all day, but in between, we just set up the instruments, and yeah, we just kept on jamming, and it was just so cool, just doing that all day. And then there was like
how did the music sessions go? How'd Kelly go in the music?
Kelly gets down. Kelly can play. Yeah, he's got like, you know, Jimi Hendrix style riffs. He's real he's like surfy with it. It's like, I don't know, surf style, but like not like you know, like the old school surf. He just like plays like a surfer, and it's awesome. Like, yeah, he's good. And we just played for hours. It was awesome. But then, you know, eventually Anderson started bringing out the tequila, and then our surfing got worse as the day went on.
It gets better for a minute, and then it gets way worse.
He actually got better when he
loosened up. Like, yeah, yeah. Says self-serving. It was good.
No,
that's rad. Yeah. Well, so do you follow Kelly in competing on the championship tour? Do you watch webcasts or anything like that?
Time, yeah, I watch. Yeah. Like, I think I've seen. I mean, most of them.
Yeah.
Unless you know, sometimes you miss them, but yeah, I try to watch everything like it's basketball or something. It's
right.
Big fan.
Aside from Kelly, because I'm going to say that's somewhat biased since you had Magic Day up at Surf Ranch, but are there any other surfers, both men and women, that you kind of like or really like the way they surf? Yeah, I mean, I think my favorite of the old school ones is, you know, because those are kind of more my style is, you know, you got Jerry Lopez, he's just style king, style master. Sure, yeah.
He was always one of my favorites. Joel Tudor, I used to longboard a bunch in high school, so Joel Tudor was, you know, idol, just the best. And then, you know, through him, I learned about like his little interviews and stuff. He would talk about a lot of the old cats, like, you know, David Nueva or, you know, Donald Takayama, or, you know, those old school, just totally style masters. And so a lot of those cat buttons for sure. A lot of those cats, the older cats, I love. Sunrail, Jericho Poplar. She was, I was good friends with her daughter Sophia.
Right.
Just ray of sunshine, and but you know, Jericho used to like date Jerry Lopez when they were both #1 in the world.
Right.
And to me, that's just like, what the hell? Coolest thing I ever heard. I think they had one of his boards in their house one time when we were like going through boards to surf. And
yeah, like, oh my God. We've gotten, I think the episode after yours is with Jerry and Stacy Peralta, because Stacy did a movie on Jerry and it's coming out. We did the conversation a while back, and I think the release date moved, but I think it's coming out soon. But it was so, and I met Jerry before, he's such a nice guy, but the movie's really interesting because I think it's called The Yin and Yang and Jerry Lopez. And the whole point is like, you know, Jerry is like Mr. Pipeline, this amazing yogi, but like he got to being that good by like, you know, cleaving a path of blood basically, but he was so aggressive in the water, and like he kind of left a trail of victims behind him in terms of like surfers that went for the throne and couldn't get it. And I'm like, really, Jerry? And it was the movie's really cool. And then hearing Jerry and Stacy talk about that sort of the dichotomy and that tension and that friction was really, really interesting. And it's cool. Like, I think it's just like cool balance. It's like in anything in life.
Yeah. I mean, it makes so much sense, him being the leader, the Hui in North Shore, because at the time I was like, oh man, this is like the sweetest guy. He's like, you know, now I get it.
Yeah, right. I think I brought that up. I'm like, so wait, that was pretty close to the bone. He's like, oh, much closer than you think. And you know, Chandler. The actor who plays Chandler in North Shore is my next door neighbor in Oxnard, Greg Harrison.
Oh,
super nice guy. Yeah. And like randomly, I didn't figure it out for like a couple of years. And then I'm like, get the fuck out of here. Oh my God. Jesus. So every time I'm like sweeping up the backyard, I'm like, I just want him to hop over the fence and like give me like a turtle line about sweeping up the shop or something.
Like, it's a big wave gun. Cool. It's not made for hot dog.
Like, just say it. Come on. Yeah.
Oh my God, I've seen that movie about 1 million times.
Oh, it's so highly quotable. Well, so like so balancing, because like music is obviously so all encompassing, and touring is a big commitment. you know, like how do you kind of balance your desire to surf with just your job, you know? And I say that because I'm curious to get your answer, but like everyone that grows up that's not like a Kelly Slater professional surfer where you're like, this is my job, I get to surf. Like we all got to kind of figure it out where it's like, okay, like I got responsibilities, I got to do this thing. Like how do you kind of satisfy that appetite for surfing when you're so busy doing other stuff?
Oh, it's hard. I mean, yeah, I definitely don't surf as much as I used to, but I just got a new board and a new wetsuit, so I hopefully and a new Bolsa pass, so hopefully those little things will get me back into it like more. But
what'd you get? What board did you get?
It's a fish beard, like a Channel Islands fish beard, like twin fin.
yeah,
and then just like what did I get? Hurley or something, or Billabong. Yeah. I always did Hurleys growing up because I just thought they were cool, but because they were
you shouted all three of them out, so they'll be stoked. They'll be Rip Curl, Billabong.
I mean, whatever it is,
we got Kelsey González. Yeah, they're all gonna lay claim to it.
Yeah, I'll send my sizes to them. So they
yeah. We'll put it in the Instagram post. We're like, he is these things, you know.
No, but to be honest, it is tough to try to find the drive to get out there, and especially because now, like, my close friends that I always surfed with have, you know, kids in a family now, and it's harder to get, harder for them to call me to go surf. But it is cool that like sometimes on the road I'll get to surf, like you know, very very rarely, but when I do, it's like the coolest feeling on earth. Like I remember one time we did a show in Japan, and the show started at 2 a.m. and so we finished around 3:30 something, and one of our homies that was backstage, he was like, we'd been talking about surfing earlier, and then he's like, I'm gonna go right now, sun's about to be up in an hour. I was like, what? Like, can I go? So I went with him to this spot as the sun's rising, and it's like raining, but the water was like super warm, and he didn't have a wetsuit for me, which is fine because the water was warm, but it was like he just had like these huge basketball shorts, and I just had like a tank top, and then his friend let me borrow one of those beater boards with no fins. So I was out there. Everyone else had like kind of like a longboard and the same wetsuit, and they were kind of doing the same kind of thing, but I was over there just doing 360s on the little insides, and had the best time, you know.
Hopefully now that we're doing this podcast and a lot of people listen to it, they'll be like, we know Kelsey surfs. Anytime we're going to go see the Free Nat, we're going to hit him up and be like, we know where the spot's at.
Please.
We got your wetsuit. We got, you're going to be ripping.
Yeah, please.
Well, and you know, this is something that comes up. We speak to obviously a lot of professional surfers, and one of the things that I'm always interested in talking about is the idea of specialization and focusing in on one thing and getting so good at it. You know, for you, it sounds like you had a lot of interest growing up, but then obviously gravitate towards music as a profession. Did you have other things that you're into, like, you know, art or sport or anything that you're like, maybe I want to do that. Maybe I want a career doing something else. Or for you, was it music just kind of built upon itself and you felt the draw to like make this your life and specialize in that in a way?
I was actually like more into art, like growing up. So I like our high school had a really good art program. It was like really, really cool. Like three periods a day of art. It was like a serious program. And I was, and then I ended up going to Cal State Long Beach for art. And then I wasn't really into it because I didn't really like, I loved the art. I just didn't like the teachers or the classmates or the assignment. I thought it was all bullshit because my high school was so good. And I was like, man, you know, my high school art, one of them, like the best dude, Mr. Nelson, shout out Mr. Nelson. He surfed too, and I'd go surf with him a lot. And it was, you know, I was like, I really wanted to do art, but then I didn't like the school there, so I was like, maybe I'll teach, be like Mr. Nelson. And then, you know, I ended up taking like a jazz history class as like a, you know, upper division class I had to take, and the teacher was so awesome. And I was like, I talked to him after. I was like, man, how do I join the jazz program? Because it like I really like this art program. And He's like, yeah, come meet the guy. I'll set you up an appointment with the head of the department. And I met the guy, and he was like, he was a total prick. He was like, first off, you have to be able to read music. He's like, can you even read music? And I was like, no, not really, but I can learn. It's like, I can learn it. And he's like, we'll see. And then he's like, what instrument? And I was like, bass. And he's like, well, first off, it's only upright bass, and they cost about $1,500 to start. So you're going to have two. So, I mean, you're way behind. And I'm like, what is this? I thought this was just school, man. I thought I could learn. But I just left. I didn't like it.
Yeah. It's
all the time,
it's
like
a
I had
when...
gigs and stuff. So I was.
Yeah. Well, I was saying, it's a bummer when you have young people that are genuinely enthusiastic about wanting to get into something, but there's gatekeepers, and sometimes it's at school, sometimes it's people that are just not interested in letting people in. Sometimes it's, as you pointed out, like upright bass costs $1,500. Like who can afford that? Not everybody. And I'd imagine that's kind of formed your opinion on getting people excited about music, getting people excited about creativity. And you started, Fight Club LBC at K Sarah, and I'd imagine that kind of was motivational for you in kind of doing something like that.
Oh, it's the best because it just bigs up the people from the community, Long Beach and surrounding areas. It just like kind of sets a bar for them because they see like these great musicians, like there's these cats that'll come and, everyone will jam. And if you hadn't really seen that before, it just blows your mind. And you kind of want to get better so that you can be at that level, or at least, perform at Fight Club or something, That's always kind of been the idea behind it. Cause I have like I used to teach for like 2 years at this nonprofit thing in Long Beach, after school program thing. And, like one of the students, this guy, he's a singer now. He's like a big time singer. His name's Giveon. And he would always, he was 18 and, when he turned 18, or at the time he was like 17, 18. And, he would just always be like, I can't wait to play Fight Club, man. I can't wait till I'm 21 and I can finally play. And then he just got so huge. And now he's like main stage Coachella and all these big things. And, he doesn't care about Fight Club anymore, but he's still like, he did it, so.
But it's cool that there's a platform for people, where it's like, because it didn't exist before. And as you pointed out, even in your own experience developing, it's like, it's not always easy to get the instruction you need or the reps you need, or just having a goal. And it's really interesting. I'm curious, like we see so many young, talented surfers come up through the ranks. And obviously when they get to the championship tour, it's the biggest stage in surfing. And there's a lot of pressure. There's, tens of millions of people watching them live, and there's sponsorship considerations. And you see some people thrive under those conditions and some people really struggle. For a musician like yourself playing live, I'd imagine it's a similar situation stressfully, especially as, the Free Nationals have gotten so much bigger. Has that ever been an issue for you, performing live, or is it something you don't worry about?
When I'm with Anderson, like, when we do those shows, I have no ounce of nervousness or any of that, because it's just it's always gonna be good, like no matter what.
Right. And
with the Free Nationals, it's like if I have to sing, I'm nervous. I'll be nervous for sure, but otherwise, I'm just like confident and just go out there and I'm cool. But I think sometimes I'll maybe even get more nervous if I'm in a studio with people. Like I remember the first time at Dr. Dre's and playing in front of him, and like I'm just, I have to write something. I'm like having to, it's like, here you go, put some bass on this. And they don't tell you what to do. It's just like, hey, here you go, and yeah, I'll be like, oh shit, what am I gonna do? And Anderson's very vocal about it. He'll always tell you, no, not that. I feel stupid. But yeah, maybe that's really the only time. I don't really ever get, not to sound like a hot shot, but I don't like on like the shows and stuff. I kind of like, a lot of it's so much muscle memory, and like I just have it and I can play it in my sleep, just because we've done it so many times, and so I don't really get nervous about that stuff. But yeah, singing, for sure. Nervous
Well, that makes a lot of sense, right? Like, I mean, as you pointed out, it's like, especially when you're with such a good band that's so tight and everything is ready to go, as you pointed out, it's like, well, when we perform live, it's muscle memory, but the improvisational stuff and being on the spot in the studio and having to create in real time, like that in and of itself is very stressful.
Yeah, for sure. And even too, when you're just showing someone a song that you did or a beat or something,
right? You're vulnerable, right? That's you putting yourself out there. Yeah.
You did all the work, but you could do, I've been working on this for a week, and then you show them and they're like, next. Fuck, man.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it's my heart. It's my heart on the page, and you're just all right. We're going out for Del Taco or something. Okay.
But then sometimes you're like, fine, I'll take this beat and give it to someone else, and maybe they'll like it.
Right. Interesting. You're represented, my understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you're represented by, or you represent, Fender, Ampeg, and La Bella strings, which is very, very cool. And I'll ask you a parallel question in surfing. Obviously, surfing has an industry, and sponsorship's a huge component in terms of how surfers are able to develop and have the space and the financial security to get better. Surfing's interesting. I think it's getting a little better, but for decades, and I've said this on the pod a lot, like, it is a community obsessed with the cult of youth, and a lot of huge contracts will go to, surfers coming up compared to surfers who have achieved, you could win a world title, and a lot of the industry will be like, cool, you've gotten your world title. Here's your bonus check. We're looking for the next and there might be kids that never win a world title, but just get paid really, really well because they're like, yeah, potential. Is there any parallel to the music industry, or is it more kind of merit based? It's like, yeah, like these partners are looking for ambassadors that create art and create music and, win awards or whatever it is. It's not necessarily kind of a youth-based thing. I'm curious if it's what your read on it is.
Yeah, it might be. It's kind of different because I think also with music companies, like especially Fender and Ampeg, I never had to sign any contracts. They never make me do anything. They just they'll just hook me up with stuff. And I could use other guitars if I want, or other amps, and could care less. And that's great. I love that about it. Yeah, I think musically it's not as much about the ads. I think the players that you see in those things is kind of people that are just down to do the commercial, down to do the things. Fender asked me to do one thing one time, like a little video, like try out their new bass or something, and I was like, sure. And they paid me some money, and I was like, cool, like I'm down. It's not at all like how it is with surfing and skating. It's like all about, so and so's on this team.
You don't have to get like a Fender jacket and walk around with it, or
Yeah. No, I don't even know who my Ampeg rep is. They
just turn up. It works out.
Yeah. No, it kind of just more for amps. It helps, like you just get a discount when you, because say we travel to wherever. I'm not going to bring an amp. I just we rent it from wherever, but we'll get a discount.
Yeah,
and that's it. And it's kind of like with surfing, it's so much cooler. And I just, stickers, just as a kid, it was like, if you're on the flow team at, the skate shop, you get stickers and, or surf shop, whatever. And you're like, all stoked.
It's probably a little grass is greener though. Like you're probably on the music side, be like, that would be really cool. And then the surfers are like, it would be great if I didn't have to put a sticker on my board. If I just got stuff and they left me alone, I'd be pumped. But the touring thing, I'm glad you brought that up, because obviously that's a huge topic of conversation in music now, is that, certainly the pandemic impacted everything economically, in the sense of like flights are more expensive, like gear is more expensive, rent, everything's more expensive. But the revenue you can generate as an artist in terms of ticket sales or whatever else has kind of stayed flat. And so you have all these musicians and artists who are like, I can't afford to tour. Like, I just can't do it, and it's not even about making as much money as we did before in terms of profit. It's about just not losing money. Have you guys had to wrestle with that at all as the Free Nationals?
Big time, man. Well, our first tour, just after we put out our album the end of 2019, so like December, And then we started our tour, like right away in January. And, like we got all the way to the end where it was the LA show and the show in the Bay, which are like, we were so excited. It's an LA show. Finally get to play our first LA show like that. And it all got cut off because of the pandemic. So we never really got to redo those shows yet. We're going to do it, but we get little shows here and there. We get podcasts and stuff, but it was kind of like, all right, well, let's just start working on the next album right away because we can't tour. And we definitely could have done a lot more touring, but we didn't. But I guess money wise, it's like, it definitely hurt because even with Anderson, we were touring all the time, and those tour paychecks are really what keep you afloat. Like the residual stuff from like making albums and stuff that comes, but it comes a lot later. And the touring is just like, money right now in your pocket type of thing that you can pay rent and all that stuff. So
yeah. That NPR Tiny Desk concert is so good that you guys did. It's on YouTube. So yeah. It was so sick. And so everyone check it out. It's on YouTube if you haven't already. Obviously that's a tiny kind of intimate venue, and you guys have played huge venues. Do you have a preference? Is it that much different for you? And follow-up question, do you kind of have a show that stands out for you with whatever group you're associated with where you're like, that's the best one I've ever done?
It's a good question. Tiny Desk and the small stuff, like even Fight Club and stuff like that, when it's a small crowd, it's so much more nerve-wracking for me because you could just like a lot of times it's people too, and they're just standing right there staring, and you're like, I get a little more nervous on that. And the big crowds, it doesn't mean it, like it doesn't get me nervous really at all. I mean, I just get excited to play. I feel like pumped up. Like, man, we just did this tour with Red Hot Chili Peppers with Anderson, and it was like London Stadium and like what's the other one? Paris. These huge arenas that like the French French soccer team plays at, like that stadium we played. It was like 90,000 people or something like that, and it was just like the biggest thing I'd ever seen. And these are all Chili Peppers fans, so it's awesome. They're pumped up, and in Europe they're more pumped up than most for sure than the States. Europe gets pumped up. And so those shows are just like, it's just fun. They don't get me nervous. But yeah, the little room, like the Tiny Desk stuff is a little more nerve-wracking. But if I were to say like favorite shows, I guess I really liked the last one we did with Anderson at the Paris Stadium, because it was like just a dream come true to get to play with the Chili Peppers and just at this huge place. And I had like family that were there from out of town, so it was just, I don't know, it was the coolest thing. And getting to hang with the Chili's dude, those guys are legends, man. Like I'm lucky enough to have known them now for, I don't know, since 2017 or something. And I talk with Flea all the time, talking with him about, so we talk about surfing all the time, and we've surfed like a few times, but he's just like the coolest dude.
I was gonna ask because Flea and Anthony both surf, right? And then I was it's a couple of years ago, this was pre-pandemic. I pulled up at some spot because I live in Oxnard and our office in Santa Monica, so I'll usually surf on my way in. And I can't remember the spot I turned up at. It's like Matador, Pescadero, or something, one of the sort of state parks. And I was there, I was getting ready. I kind of like parked like on a lane in the parking lot with like no cars, so it's just me, my Subaru. And this huge van pulls up, like, and there's all these spots. It's like 10 spots in a row. And the guy pulls up like right next to me. And I'm like, what the God? And then I'm like, whatever. And I'm like waxing my board. And then I like a similar van, like, or truck, I can't remember what it was, or maybe it's SUV, pulls up like right, like sandwiched me. Like there's like 10 spots and the three, I'm in the middle. And I'm like, what? I'm like, are these guys gonna like kick my ass? Like, what's going on? And out popped Anthony and Flea, and I'm like getting my wetsuit on, and they're just talking like across me, and I'm like, surely there was 200 spots. You guys could have picked a different place to get ready, but they can surf. I'm glad that you guys. I'm glad you guys get out there. That's cool.
Yeah, Flea. Well, at his old house, it's like, yeah, Malibu, just kind of like north of the pier and stuff. And he has like kind of like his own little private little beach because there's no parking lot, there's no nothing. Just takes the stairs and you're right there, and it's like a good spot. And yeah, he's a great surfer. He charges it too, you know. He's not afraid to fall. He goes for it. He's awesome. And then I remember the first time we got to meet them, and I met Anthony, and he was like, yeah, I said something about, we were talking about surfing, and then he's like, where are you from? And I'm like, I'm from Long Beach. And he's like, do you ever surf? I did not expect him to say this, but he's like, do you ever surf that wave at Seal Beach on the south side by the jetty? He's like, when it gets really big, because I've seen that wave break before, like what is 13th Street, something. It's like Seal Beach, you got the pier, and then you got the jetty over here, and it break when it gets really big, and it's like the swell direction's like the right thing. It'll get really big, and it's like a left that breaks off there. And I've never surfed it, but I knew about it, and having him just say like the most obscure wave, ever. I was like, how do you even know about that, man? But then I forget that he's Keidis, and he was in Point Break, and he's
all right. Yeah, that's right. Core score way up. Yeah, that's so funny.
Yeah.
Well, that's rad. We're going to take one more quick break, and then we'll round out with a couple more topics, and we'll be right back.
Cool.
We were talking about it before we started recording, but we are recording on the opening day of competition for the final Challenger Series event of the year, the Haleiwa Challenger. It's great swell. There's going to be waves all event. Our episode, I had dinner with Travis Logie last night, and our episode will likely drop. It's going to drop next Tuesday. The event might be finished at that point, and we will have the qualifying class decided for the 2023 championship tour. And, just taking a look at the current standings, like it's a pretty diverse class of surfers. I've been doing this for 17 years, and we've got a lot of countries represented. You got Leonardo Fioravanti from Italy. You got Rio Waida from Indonesia. Yeah.
I'm half Italian too, so
Hey, there you go. There it is. Yeah, there you got it. There you go. There's your guy. You got Ryan Callanan from Australia, Ramsey Bukiam from Morocco. We have Hawaiians, French, Brazilians on the men's side. And on the women's side, we've got, Australians, Katie Simmers from California, Betty Luce Johnson from Hawaii, and then Teresa Bonvalot from Portugal, who, if she qualifies, she'll be the first Portuguese surfer to qualify for the women's tour, which is really, really cool. Do you watch the Challenger Series events? Are you going to be checking it out, Haleiwa, this week?
Yeah, for sure. I'll be watching it. I haven't really watched too much lately, but I do know, of the people that are in here, Molly Picklum, for sure. I love her style. Betty Lou, I love her style. She's so good. Obviously on the men's side, Leo is my Italian brother.
There you go.
I always liked Zhao Gianca.
Yeah, Zhao Gianca.
He's great too.
Yeah.
And Luca Messinas, he's pretty cool. I remember him. Oh, Juan Daru. There's a lot of cats in here that are.
Yeah, and
there's some hitters. Rio, yeah. I'm gonna go with my boy Leo though. He's got my blessing,
I like it. And it's you brought up both Molly and Betty Luce Johnson, and I'll throw Caitlin Simmers in there as well. Katie Simmers, she qualified for this year's championship tour, and I'm going to screw her age up. I think she was 15 when she qualified, and she said, no, like I'm not going to do it. I need another year to mature. Betty Lou's about the same age. She might just be like a few months older. Qualified as well, and was like, yep, I'm going to do it. Couldn't make the mid-season cutoff and had to get back on the Challenger Series. Molly's a pretty young age too. And going back to that comment before the break, like surfing, it's a community obsessed with the cult of youth. And we have a history of like really young, phenomenal surfers, men and women, like cracking onto the tour, and some succeed and some don't. And then some people become kind of cautionary tales where you're like, oh, that person, that was too much too soon. Is there a similarity in music where it's like, hey, this person's an amazing guitar player, an amazing bass player, amazing drummer. They're really, really young. Like, should they chill before they mature a little bit before we send them on tour? Or is it more just kind of a free for all?
Might be more of a free for all because it's like there's not there's not really winners or losers, you know.
Right.
So,
Yeah, it's either working or it's not. Yeah.
Yeah, but if you see a kid that's ripping, you're like,
yeah,
you know.
Right. But I guess like we talked about in the first segment too, like you have to be a pretty well-adjusted person. Doesn't matter what the industry is. Like if you're going on the road and touring and, you know, you kind of, I think when you're younger, and I'd speak for myself too, like it's easier to be influenced, or you're like, oh, I just want to fit in. Like those guys have been doing it for decades. It's like, if they're drinking or going out or doing this, like I want to be included. And, you know, as you get older, you mature and you're like, no, I can make my own decisions. I'm happy being alone. I'm comfortable with who I am. And you're probably someone who toured at a young age too. And I'm wondering if that's ever a conversation on the music side.
Yeah, I look back at my younger days when I was touring, and it was, yeah, I cringe sometimes because I'm like, oh, what was I thinking? Or why did I do that? Or why did I wear that? Or whatever. But even just in everyday life, it was cool. I mean, a lot of the cats at the time that I was touring with were my age, so it wasn't as I mean, just for me. I can imagine though for you know, a kid or something that's some like hot shot that goes on tour with, you know, whoever. I can imagine for sure that you'd probably want, if it was my kid or something, I'd probably want them to like just chill a little bit and maybe go, wait till they're at least 18 or something to go on tour.
Right.
But yeah.
But Kelsey, how old are you?
I'm 36.
36. Okay, I'm 39. So we're not too far apart. But, you know, I think you and I probably had the benefit. We probably started touring around the same time because you probably started touring a little younger. But like, at least social media wasn't everywhere. You know, smartphones weren't everywhere. So like, I think back and I'm like, oh, I wish I didn't do that. I wish I didn't wear that. I wish I didn't say whatever it was. But I'm like, thankfully no one recorded it. And it's not like immediately everywhere. So I always think of kids today where I'm like, you guys aren't even allowed to screw up. Yeah. Like at least we were like, it was not sort of like terminal to our careers. We're like, oh, it was a mistake. Yeah. But fortunately, you know, I learned from it. Now I'm better. And now I'm like, man, these poor kids. It's like, it's crazy.
Yeah. And I mean, even just to go back to surfing, like the social media kind of ruined a lot of the coolness of a lot of things, but it's cool now that we can watch any surf event streaming from our living room or our phone or wherever. Because, you know, I also grew up in the time when I'd have to read Surfer magazine or whatever to figure out what happened or whatever, you know. I was always a big Bobby Martinez fan too, you know, Latino.
Yeah.
So I'd want to see how he did and stuff. And then I didn't see a lot of like the videos of him, you know, like kind of popping off. I never saw those until later. And I'm like, oh, damn, I wish I knew this then. Cause, you know.
Oh, right. Yeah. Right. Yeah.
I mean, you know, it's like, I always thought he was so cool. He was just such like good style.
He is cool. He still surfs so well because I see him surf every now and then up at home and up in Santa Barbara. He's an amazing surfer. But, you know, you're right. Like, you know, you're growing up, and I would say this all the time. I'm like, I used to get the magazine, you know, and it'd be like, here's the event coverage that happened 6 months ago. And it's like 10 pages. It's all the best waves. And as a kid, you're like, man, it must be pumping everywhere all the time. Like the CT must be amazing. This is the dream tour. It's like, who doesn't want to be there? And then, yeah, like the information age kicks in, you start streaming and you're like, this heat's kind of slow or those waves are kind of bad. But and like, you know, it's not true, but part of your brain's like, tour's not what it used to be. But it's like, for sure it was like that before, but we just kind of got this like curated version of like, everything's peachy.
Yeah.
You know?
And then even watching, because I knew that there was probably some shit waves during contests because US Open, they just ran the finals on the weekend, and that's all there was to it. And
right, yeah.
If it was really shitty, it didn't matter, you know. And it's kind of funny seeing like some of the world's best surfers surfing Little Huntington, like doing the Huntington hop and stuff. It's hilarious.
It is amazing too, right? Because you used to have like, didn't really matter where the venue was. It could be, you know, half a foot Huntington or like 12-foot pipe. You would have these specialists that would kind of get onto the tour through their own avenue. Like maybe they're a beach break specialist, or maybe they were a barrel specialist, and they try to kind of find their way onto the tour. And it wouldn't be such a level playing field because you go to Huntington, that's a very specific wave. And like Brett Simpson's like the best Huntington beach surfer like in history. And he annihilates everybody, you know?
Oh my God.
And then you would go to like, you'd go to like Tahiti and it'd be these like psycho barrel. It'd be like Andy Irons, right? Where he's like a level above even the best guys. And he's just that much better. But then everyone started kind of getting so good everywhere that you have kind of surfers like a Gabriel Medina and even a Bobby Martinez, who there's not like a weak part in their surfing. It's not like there's a venue where it's like, it's crappy beach break, they're going to struggle. Oh, it's 12-foot pipe, they're going to struggle. Oh, it's 8-foot J-bait. It's like, no, they're all good everywhere now. And that's been something interesting that's happened in like the last 15 years.
It's cool to see. And, even just seeing Felipe get his barrel riding up, you're like, oh, these dudes are unstoppable, man. Because he was always great, but
yeah,
it's like, the dude he's unstoppable, and but like barrel specialists and stuff are always, it's just like, that's such a rare thing because you got to have barrels first to be able to get good at them.
Totally. Like, how do you, and I'm always baffled by people who become barrel specialists from like Florida, like Kelly or the Hobgoods. And you're like, how the hell are the Lopez brothers are like, how the hell did you get good at doing this? Like it's
hilarious. Because for me, it's like, I grew up all beach breaks, on the daily stuff. But then when I really had, time or whatever, we go camp. Me and my buddies would camp at Leo Carrillo in the summer. So that wave to me is just, I wish I had that wave all the time to where I could, just surf point breaks perfectly all the time. But even those one day of getting, perfect rights at Leo Carrillo, definitely I felt like it made my turns back, my surfing, everything better, and just imagine having barrels every day, like John, pipeline.
Well, and you're completely right. Like, I mean, I got lucky enough to go on a boat trip to the Mentawais like 15 years ago. And you're like, okay, we've got 10 days of world-class waves and all we're doing is surfing. And you get so good at surfing, like relative to what you were at the start, just because you're like, these are great waves. This makes more sense than like, banging my head against the wall, surfing a beach break for like 4 months. It's like you get better in a day than you would like, for months on end, depending on the conditions.
Yeah. That's awesome.
So in 2023, we got the championship tour schedules locked. We've got, we're starting at Pipeline, Sunset Beach, Super Tubos and Peniche, Bells Beach, Margaret River. Then we have the relegation, and then Surf Ranch, El Salvador, Saquarema, J-Bay, Chopu, and then the finals again at Lowers. As a fan, are there events that stand out to you where you're like, wherever I am, whatever I'm doing, I'm not missing this?
Well, most of them. I mean, all of them. but like you didn't say where are they at in Australia this year?
Bells Beach and Margaret River. Those are the two championship tour
events. Those two you never
want
to miss too. But Jeffreys Bay, I mean, just seeing Felipe do the 2 air thing. I just say that wave is just, now that he did that, now everyone can just do that. Like they know that they can, so they just do. Lowers, obviously Lowers on a good day is one of the greatest things on earth. But I hope it's big. When I really hope it's just like good, perfect Lowers. Because that's going to be good. Lowers is just unbeatable. But I mean. Pipe, obviously, it's like I'm not gonna miss Pipe for the world. But I just love Bells because I just love to get to see people with the rail game and carve and they're so good. Margaret River, so good.
Bells is such an interesting one because it's like the longest. It's actually celebrating its 60th year next year, which is like the longest running event on tour. And when I started on tour, it was probably 06, 07, and surfing was kind of going through that period in those first few years where, everyone was like, I want to see more air reverses, want to see like little flicks, and like you have like the Julian Wilson, the Dane Reynolds, and the Geordies that were like doing the big like fin ditches and like releases, and Bells was not, as a wave, was not always like conducive to that kind of surfing. And there were a few years I remember where the championship tour was like, why is this on tour? What are we doing? And then it was honestly like, I remember this pretty vividly. It was Kolohe Andino, and he got knocked out of the event early. And I remember him sitting on the steps every single day and watching like every heat, start to finish. And I remember talking to him, and he's like, this is like the most important event. This is like the most historic event. Like, Mick Fanning's the best surfer on the planet because he can surf bells. Like, this is a really important thing. And that was like a real sea change with the surfers. Like, I don't know if he talked to other surfers about it, but I just noticed like the younger surfers that were kind of his generation were like, we want to get good at surfing bells. And obviously they've thrown their own spin on it. You see guys doing airs and fin releases there too, but it is that kind of, if I can perform at Bells Beach and my rail game is world class, I will have respect, and I'll respect myself. And I think for that reason, it's just eternal. Like, it's never not going to be on tour.
Yeah. In some like, there's just some guys that you just like, John obviously, like, his rail game to me, it just blows my mind, because he always does those, not always, but those turns of the cutbacks, the really long cutbacks where he just holds on half a second at the end before he bottom turns. And it's like that. Jack Robinson does that too a lot. Mikey Wright was doing that. I saw him doing that. I think, where was it? Was it at Bell's somewhere this year? But I think like, yeah, like, it's such a difficult thing, because if you do it just too much, you just lose the wave.
Right.
And, but if you do it and you do it right, it's like the most beautiful thing. And that wave, it's just so good. And then even seeing like Owen Wright do, backside, the backside rail game is hard, and he always kills it.
Well, let's finish up with the upcoming album, Free Nationals 2. I don't know if you guys have a release date yet, but your debut album, it released in 2019, and you guys are nominated for a Grammy, well earned. It featured the late Mac Miller, Kali Uchis, Anderson, T.I., Conway the Machine, a bunch of others. What can we expect from the Free Nationals 2 in terms of what kind of music we're going to get? And maybe a little bit of an indication of when.
When is probably like at least in the later part of 2023. Because a lot of the music is kind of, I'm not gonna say done, but at least the instrumental part of it, we have like, I don't know, a good 90% like of songs we're already like, oh, this one, we got a good list. And it's cool like being able to work with these other artists, because a lot of times in this situation, like, you maybe have to pay someone, or you'd have to like, I mean, it's not like we don't pay them, but you have to be like, oh, well, you don't know them, and you're like, oh, someone's, Free Nationals are a fan of you and they want you on their album, and then it's not like that with us. We're lucky that we have been able to tour with or be in studios with these people, and then Anderson's connection with them too on his own. Like, we it's people that we've toured with or been friends with, so it's easy to get them on the album. Like Chronix, he's like, great friend, so it's easy, like Mac DeMarco, he's not on the album, but who knows if he's on the next one. I can't tell. But these are friends that you're like it's easier to get them on the album. Actually, by the way, I just remembered I took Mac DeMarco surfing a couple of times, and he would just like go on the shore and smoke cigs, and he's great. It's gonna be good. I guess musically it's gonna sound definitely different, but just more high quality and just more, I don't know, more class and style. Because the first one was kind of like, it was great, but we kind of, I guess we were just learning as a band, and the songs are great, but now we're just at the next level and getting together with artists to finish it. So it's gonna be great.
I love it. Well, we should lock in a release party up at Surf Ranch for you.
Oh, yes, please.
late 2023. We're putting that out into the universe. We're gonna get done.
September. Let's say that. How about that?
I like it. Post finals, I'm into it. Let's do it.
Exactly. We'll try to do it around the finals.
Perfect. That's perfect. Well, before you go, we put out some questions to the Instagram community. They follow us at The Lineup Pod, and we got a ton back, but we've whittled them down to nice. 3 for you. The first one is from @TuCool for Megan, who asks, how has surfing and or surf culture affected your approach to music? Very
much so. I think I think, I mean, the approach of it and, like the discipline that surfing has is something that, waking up and going out there, even if it's freezing cold and the waves are trash, and you're by yourself, that kind of thing is the same with music. It's, you do it just because you love it. But also like with Anderson, I was on the Venice album and on Malibu album, I was able to like put in like these little surf clips from, movies or Jerry Lopez talking or Buttons talking or, just these little things. And we were able to put them on the album, and it kind of made the whole thing, gave it a, what do you call it? Just like a theme, so it's like tells a story and stuff and little sounds of waves in between. And it's cool that I was able to like, mend those two things together, because I guess the music kind of did sound like some of the songs, like the song Parking Lot, it just sounds like there's some surf shit. So it just made sense to like have the surf theme and stuff. So yeah.
I dig it. I love the idea of sampling like audio sounds. There's that old Lost movie about the fish, 5'5" by 19 1/4. Have you seen it? And it starts as what it came out in like the 90s, but what's it called? 5'5" by 19 1/4. It's like an old, like it's so, dude, you got to check it out. So
I used to have Lost at Sea on VHS. I still do.
So this came out like right around the same time. Like Lost at Sea is amazing, but 5'5" 19 1/4 was all about the round nosed fish, like Chris Ward and Corey Lopez surfing it. But that has Bruce Andy. The video starts. It's a black screen before the vision comes up, and it's just this like sound, and you're like, what is that? It sounds like it's like rhythmic. Sounds like a train track. And it's Corey waxing up his board, like the vision cuts in like from the black screen, and I'm like, man, that audio cue like gets me so psyched to go surfing. I was like begging the company to be like, you should release it as a ringtone or something, like do something with it. Like it's a cool sound, but it's cool to thread that stuff. But you got to check the movie out; it's amazing.
Oh yeah, I will. Also, the beginning of Broke Down Melody is one of my favorites too. I just love the beginning with the little Jamaican kid singing, and I tried to sample that in a song with Anderson a while ago, and the song never came out, but I was like, give this kid a little sample, give him some clout.
I love it.
Yeah.
Second question is from @Israel Shoots, who says, hey Kelsey, big fan, wondering if you've ever been surfing with your father before.
So Israel is our photographer with Anderson, and he's messing with me. But it's like an inside joke that just goes on way too long and for way too many years. But yeah, to actually answer it, yes. Yeah, he taught me, so.
I dig it. And the last one we've selected is from @Kitty Kendall, who asks, what accomplishment are you most proud of?
Fuck. I guess just like certain songs that I've been a part of. Because those shows are something at that time that's cool, but songs live forever. So there's just like maybe a couple songs that I'm just like, oh, I can't believe we did that one. And there's a song called Eternal Light on our Free Nationals album that I'm just so like, oh, I'm just so happy we did that one. Anything with Anderson, just always so great. But yeah, and then also surfing at the Surf Ranch and getting a jam with Kelly. It was like the greatest thing on earth. Saw God that day.
Well, the tangibility thing's important. I'm drawing a huge blank on this movie, but I think it's a big one. But I remember it was someone who I think they sold like ad space or something, and they were kind of bemoaning the fact they're like, I sell air. My dad, he built furniture, and he could say like, I put a couch into the universe, and he goes, it wasn't as exciting, but like he built something, so similar to you, where it's like, hey, a song lives forever. Like I did that, and that means something.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I mean, awards, stuff like that. Like, I guess that'll be on, that'll live forever, I guess, but not as much as just the actual song. So, like, we won a Grammy with one of Anderson's albums, and for like the whole album, which was so great because it's, you know, it's an album, but it doesn't mean as much as the actual music from it. So
yeah,
that's a good question. I guess I never thought of that.
It is a good one, but I guess too, like, you know, even though like concerts are, you know, they happen and then they're gone, those experiences mean a lot to people too. So that's pretty cool too. Well, appreciate everyone. Yeah, I appreciate everyone writing in at the lineup pod. Those are good questions. We're down to our final segment. It's time for the lightning round. And since you've listened to the show before, you know the questions. And I have some options here that are music based, but I'm gonna give you the OG. We're gonna give you like the original questions because I'm interested to get your answers. If you could have one board setup for the rest of your life, single fin, twin fin, thruster, quad, bonzer, or finless, which would you choose?
Twin fin? No, quad. Yeah, I'm gonna say quad. Even though I want to say single fin because that's just like the classic one. I'm gonna say quad.
Coffee or tea?
Tea.
Burrito or pizza?
Burrito.
That split you right down the middle though, right? Because you got the Latino Italian thing.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah, I'm lucky to have the best food in the world on both sides. But you know, it ain't nothing like a burrito, you know.
Last book one you read?
Well, Flea's book. Yeah, Flea's book. It's called Acid for the Children. But actually, there's a book of short stories by Kurt Vonnegut that's like my favorite one, called Welcome to the Monkey House. So every once in a while, I'll pop that one open and read a couple little things from there because it's so good. But the last like real like all the way was Acid for the Children.
This is the 133rd episode we've done. The first person who's called out Kurt Vonnegut. So bless you. Appreciate it.
My favorite.
He's amazing. Best surf film ever.
5 Summer Stories.
That's what good. We just did the episode with Greg McGillivray, and they just released.
I watched that.
Man,
so good.
I rewatched it and ahead of the conversation, I'm like, this is so good. This is like so good. Oh man.
Yeah. Oh, and then also North Shore. No, I'm just kidding.
That's hey, well,
hey, it counts, right?
Hey, yeah. It's probably the most quoted, like for sure.
Yeah.
What is one wave you never have to go back to?
The Wedge.
Fair enough. It's dangerous.
I mean, yeah, I just don't want to die.
Yeah,
but it's a good one.
If you only get to surf one wave for the rest of your life,
man. But I would say Malibu if no one's out.
Yeah, you could Dreamcast it. Be like Malibu with no one.
But you know, I want to be fair too because I want left sometimes too. So I'm gonna say lowers.
Good choice. Who is the best person to share a lineup with?
Oh man, my buddies, man. Greg Loya, Robbie Albert, John Cray, Sophia Bartlow. Yeah, my buddies.
Worst person.
And Kelly Slater that one time.
He is all right. Yeah. Worst person to share a lineup with?
My buddies. No,
that happens a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. No, they're all great. I mean, I guess just there was this one guy. Well, not worst, but there's this one guy. I love him, but it just also sometimes I'm like, because he was the nicest guy. But at Bolsa Chica and Huntington, I see him all the time. But he'd always be out there on the coolest longboard with like a single fin, and he just always just wore a Speedo. He's a big guy,
yeah,
and he wore like a colorful Speedo, and it was always like just tiny, and no matter if it was winter or whatever, he would always just rock it. And he's not the worst, but I just think that was awesome. Yeah, I don't think there's a worst. I think he goes in the other category.
Yeah. That's fair. Yeah. Last one. Finish this sentence. I will next achieve a state of happiness by
getting barreled another time soon, and hopefully it's sooner than later. Because man, it's been a while.
I love it. Kelsey González, thank you so much.
Thing to do out here.
No, it's not. But Kelsey González, thank you so much for coming on the lineup. I really, really enjoyed this conversation and your candor, and love your music. I hope everyone gets a chance to check it out, and hope we get to hang out soon. And looking forward to the release party at Surf Ranch next September.
Yeah. Thank you for having me.